I am Thor, son of Odin, and as long as there is life in my breast, I am running out of things to say.
Great, another broken white boy for us to fix.
That's my secret, Cat.
I'm always angry.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are. With great power comes great responsibility. I can do this all day.
Wakanda forever!
And welcome, Internet, to another episode of Views from the 616, the blackest MCU podcast in the multiverse, powered by For All Nerds, where we discuss everything in the MCU from the perspective of people of color. And it is one of your hosts, Tatiana King, a.k.a. The Life and Times of Sharon Carter, a.k.a. T'Challa Bread, a.k.a. Tesseract Thompson. Agatha Darkness is spreading. Had to bring that one back. Ravana Ren player, Doc Aki, he who cannot be shamed, and the coldest winter soldier ever. As always, this time I am joined by my not bespectacled, but chained out, iced out man. Introduce yourself, sir.
It's your boy, DJ BenHaMeen, a.k.a. Tan the Manly, Brother Voodoo Child, Universal Fan Khonshu, Baron Mordo, doing too much. I messed that one all up. Howard University owned, the Planetoid Paladin, NBA young boy, never blipped again.
I can't with the Khonshu one. I really can't. It's too much for me.
It's way too much. It is way too much. Baron Moore doing too much. That's what I was going for.
Baron Moore doing too much? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah.
Shouts to
and
everyone
aren't you
who
not
caught the Khonshu one.
Yeah. It hurts.
There was a few comments last week.
Aren't you not Baptist America?
I am Baptist America.
There you go. You got to bring that one back. I was thinking about that when I was on vacay this week.
I said that last week, I think.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I remember, and I was just like, yo, that's an amazing one. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I said my Thug Yoda one, because you have your Thug Yoda one as well. So
yes, Briss Blairmont.
There you are.
There I am.
And welcome everybody to Views from the 616. We are back to discuss Moon Knight on Disney Plus. This time we're talking about episode 5 titled Asylum. This is the penultimate episode, and boy, was it devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into the details, let's get into the basic plot. Written by BenHaMeen. Let's go. It's a big balancing act in the penultimate episode of Moon Knight as the dynamic duo of Marc and Steven come face to face with the Hippo Gawd herself. Take a little trip down the river Duat, and we all find out just how much glorious red is in their ledgers in the asylum. All right. Lots and lots of red. Lots of regret.
Red and regret is all that's in their ledgers. That's it.
And you know, let's just get right into the themes of the episode, because this is so much to talk about. Ready?
Yep.
The themes
of the episode. Huzzah!
Yeah, we have to get right into this because there's so much to break down. As I mentioned, this is, well, I didn't say this particular word, but here it is. This is heartbreaking. This episode, I felt like I needed to go to therapy immediately. People were tweeting me talking about, they needed hugs, they needed to be held, they needed to go take some drugs of some sort, they needed to drink. Like, people were really in their feelings, as I was as well. And I did not expect, you talked about shifts in tone, BenHaMeen. Like, I didn't expect this episode to be so damn deep.
I didn't either. Yeah. Well, actually, I did. I can't lie. I said it when we watched the first 4 episodes. I was like, yo, the 5th episode is either going to be incredible or this show is going to fall flat on its face. Because the first 4 episodes were a lot of buildup. And I was like, okay, I already knew we had that payoff with the hippo at the end. So I was like, they're about to get into all the mind and reveal everything that's going on. And I wasn't sure, like we talked about last week, if they were going to go the route of everything you've seen is false. But I also pretty much knew they weren't because of stuff in the 4th episode. I think we called a lot of ish that went down in this one.
We did.
Hard body. But yeah, that was my thing. I knew they weren't about to flip it and say that nothing happened. And I'm glad they didn't. But I also knew that the 5th episode needed a lot, and it delivered for me.
Yeah. Now, as you say, they did not say that nothing, they didn't say that everything we saw was a lie necessarily, but they also didn't say it wasn't, right? Because there was still there were Inception type levels of things going on in this episode where I'm still questioning reality. I'm still questioning who's who and what's going on because it's still coming from the unreliable narrator at the end of the day. So I'm still not fully clear, or not even clear, but I'm still not fully believing what I'm seeing.
Is he dead?
Is he fucking dead? What the fuck you mean is he fucking dead, guy?
Fuck you think?
The nigga laying there with this fucking, all types of fucking blood coming out of his fucking...
Is he dead? Right. Like,
Is
I'm
he
not
dead?
fully believing what I'm seeing and hearing. Even still, even with the truth, quote unquote, coming out, I'm like, I don't know. And like that leads to the very first theme, right? The theme of just facing the truth, facing your fears, facing death. And also, shout out to Steven's mom, Nancy Spector. This is all your fault.
They're all gonna laugh at you. Shout out to what's that? Is that Christine? No, that's not Christine. That's the other one, Carrie. Shout outs to Carrie, boy.
Oh my God.
Nancy Spector's up there with Carrie's mom.
Nancy Spector got some problems, but like before we get just. That's what I'm saying. It's just so you get introduced to several. I mean, technically, you get reintroduced. You get reintroduced to Marc and Steven again too, but you get introduced to so much pain and trauma and just fucked upness. But I would say that this episode, what it did answer was it 100% confirmed everything that we had been speaking about personally with our own research. What we spoke about with Dr. Drea in our previous episode. Dr. Drea came on the show, spoke from an academic purview, or academic perspective, and with some letters behind her name about what dissociative identity disorder is and all of the psychology behind Moon Knight, right? So what we kept saying was, what they didn't reveal until now was, look, there had to have been some traumatic childhood event that helped to bring about Marc's DID. And for this case, it wasn't, and interestingly, it wasn't the event itself, but the consequences of the event. And that event we're talking about is the death of Marc's little brother, Randall.
Eesh.
Right.
Roro.
Roro was his nickname. And that alone obviously is traumatic and fucked up, but it was the consequences of that death, meaning the way his moms treat that boy like dirt, like mud, like the scum beneath her toes.
Like,
he's a child.
I know everyone has had rough I mean, not everyone, but childhood is rough for most people in general. And I had issues with my parents, especially my father. He was, a wild military man, just wild boy. And it's still watching this episode, I was like, yo, imagine that, losing your sibling and then your parent treats you like dirt for years. And I couldn't, no issue I had with either of my parents was ever comparable to this. And I'm just sitting there like, God damn, that's rough, kid.
I couldn't even imagine like the pain. And this isn't like something made up for TV. This happens to people.
Yes.
I could not, just seeing this played out in a TV show, like it was already bad. How much worse is it in real life? Experiencing this, like, think about the greatest and I hope no one listening has ever had to go through that. Maybe you have, but think about the greatest pain you've ever experienced, and then multiply it by who knows what multiples, and then add the fact that you're a child.
Yeah.
And not only is it's several levels of abuse. It's physical abuse, it's emotional abuse, it's mental abuse, and that's probably why this I mean, beyond everything else going on, why this episode was so heavy. Like for me, I'm typically a lot of stuff don't faze me, but anything that happens to children, that's the line for me. I just be like I can't deal with it when bad things, terrible things happen to kids. And seeing this, and again, this is a story, this is fiction, but it just felt so real, and it spoke to a very deep part of me where I was just like, yo, this is on another level. And that's probably why, as the episode progressed, I just kept feeling so connected and so just hurt for Marc and Steven.
Pretty much. Yeah. And it also confirmed with the whole DID, another thing that we've been theorizing about, that Mark is, the originator.
He's
none
the
greater.
main. He's the primary. He's a primary ego, whereas Steven is the alter.
As Steven thinks of himself a creation of Mark's mind, which is some cold-blooded shit to have to realize about.
Mm-hmm. And he didn't want to realize that, right? Because he was just like, "Oh, so what you mean? I'm just a figment of your imagination. I'm just your stress ball." Like,
yeah, ooh.
Because and that's the cold part about it is, yes, that is what you are. He thought you up. You're not real. However, because of how we've seen from the very beginning, the way that this character Steven, the way that this being, we've been introduced, we've lived his life. He has lived his life. As we know of DID, each of these alters have their own distinct view of life, their own experiences. As far as they can tell, everything about them is real.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody saying, "Yo, you not a real boy, you Pinocchio," that's some wild shit.
Yeah, and because he comes into the world fully formed. As Steven, he is a little kid who probably has a whole set of memories, everything from just like Mark did at that age, and thinks of himself as this little boy Steven. And then grows up like that.
It's been confirmed. He confirmed that. He came out, Mark pulled him out anytime, it was time to kind of go away from all the madness. That's the life that Steven lived. He did live a good childhood. He had experiences.
Mm-hmm. And it's just like we talked about, that's the thing, Steven up until this point, Mark all through this. And that's why I keep going back to, Mark got, I don't know how Mark's heart got, balanced out at the end of this, because he still got a lot to answer for. It's like, he's been this whole grimy ass dude because he's known Steven is this other side of him.
Why get with Layla after the death of
her
father? Even though you didn't do it, it's just what was the mentals behind that?
I've been said that for how long now? And now, I've been said that. That's wild grimy.
I'm saying you did. I agree.
Okay.
It wasn't a question. It was a statement.
All right, thank you. Because I was like, yo, this man been and it was confirmed. And then it's even grimier, what we knew, but now that it's confirmed, it's he wasn't with her before that. Her father gets murked. This man finds her, and it's yo, what's good though?
I don't know the thought process behind it reminds me of Falcon. Falcon and Winter Soldier. Not Falcon, but the Winter Soldier rather. It reminds me of the Winter Soldier when he when he wanted to tell Mance that what was it? That he killed his dad or whatever?
His son, right?
His son, excuse me, that he killed his son, right? And I'm just don't share your don't put your burden of trauma on somebody else. That's how it feels. I don't know. It's it's a weird way to atone. But I'm just why would you then involve the person who was hurt the most?
This man was over here playing pinochle or whatever with that man and killed his son.
Right.
Come on, man. Pure grime.
It's just not a good way to and as I said, when I thought about it, I'm yo, that's just what the fuck Winter Soldier did. I don't know. It's just doing it was just a step too far. That's how you pay back this person. Okay, well, I couldn't save her father, so I'm going to save her. And when you think about it, it seems noble, but my thing is, this is once again Mark taking shit into his own account without letting the other person have the
agency.
The agency. You just she has no idea until years later. How long have they been even fucking married? Like
I said, Mark has been living a whole ass life. It's not been the best life, but he's been living a whole ass life. And there's a lot of sympathy for Mark again and again throughout this episode and series that I found horribly misplaced.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you. I think he deserves sympathy. I also think he deserves to be told about himself. It's both.
And I also feel there's things in this episode that made me question how long Khonshu has been effing with this man.
And that's what I told. Thank you for saying effing with, because it's.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I've been told you that, though. I've been said that.
Last episode, you was all, poor Mark, what you talking about? Yes.
I'm still poor Mark, what you talking about? Because there's a moment in this episode when I'm poor Mark should have just, finished what he,
should have offed himself.
The choice is yours, You can get with this or you can get with that, and you can get with this because this is kind of fat, that's what he was like. He was like, oh yeah,
my God,
vengeance is mine. That's what Mark was like. He said, or maybe I'm just a killer, Steven. Like
yeah,
like keeping it real.
Well, and the things that they say about a lot.
Look what he did with his second life.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's not like he like, let me get better. No, he's like, let me be grimy.
Yeah. Oops. The thing is, a lot of things that people say, like about mental illnesses, and issues, is that a lot of times it could be hereditary, right? And in a way, you're seeing Mark's own mother going through a mental break as well. And maybe not even in a way, you do see it.
Yeah.
But the way that it, how do I explain this? The way that it's manifests is on some other shit. Like Mark's own mother blamed Kid Mark for the death of his brother. And as I said about this theme of facing death and facing your fears, like she does not even want to face the truth of death and the truth of what happened, right? Like she has her own inability to face the truth by placing blame on her own child. Now, granted, clearly Mark was the older child, but what were they, like 11 and 9 or something? Like they're still very much kids. And you saw her, like she clearly put a lot of responsibility on Mark rather. She says, hey, make sure you keep your eye on your brother. You're supposed to keep him safe, all this other stuff. And yeah, like that is like normal, right? Like when I have 2 younger brothers. Like my father had always said to me, hey, when you're out with your brothers, make sure you take care of them, make sure you watch them because the onus is on you, right? You're the responsible one, right? But then there comes a time where it's like you have to understand at the end of the day, these are children and things happen, right? And a sane person or a person who's not like just snapped like that would be like, you know what? I may feel a way. Clearly she was beside herself for losing her youngest son. But at the same time, you can't place blame on a kid.
And this is also a moment where we get to see Mark Spector's Jewish faith confirmed. And throughout this episode, and we get to see them sitting Shiva, I want to say is how you pronounce it.
Shiva, the mourning period.
Yeah, the mourning period, which goes on for 7 days after a person dies, and people gather around the house. It's like a tradition that's held in many, traditional cultures, where people come to the house and everyone mourns with you, and you ignore your physical makeup and all that, and you wear black, and it's even deeper for that because, like, okay, a lot of people have been talking about this. Even we talked about this before, how the Jewish faith of Mark Spector has not been shown a lot. But something I really realized as we talked to Dr. Drea and as this show has been going on is something about storytelling is you can't tell every stories, right? And there's a very powerful story with Moonlight that could have been told about a man whose father is of the Jewish faith, who loses his faith in it and then finds faith in another faith. But that's not the story they're telling here. The story they're telling is about this man and his DID and his dealings with this God and
him losing himself. And him losing himself and how that happened.
And so what we get are these very subtle hints in this episode. And I really like that because you see him, walking away from the Shiva and then, taking it off in the middle of the street, going down on all knees, and then, accepting that this is who he is now.
Yeah. I'm just continuing.
And also walking away from his father. Yeah.
He did that twice. But just continuing with his mom, the part that what I'm trying to say, like the start of that psychotic break or whatever is the actual term for this when it comes to Mark, like the fact that she rejected him, right? She refuses to engage with Mark. She don't attend his birthday celebrations. She becomes an alcoholic. And as I mentioned,
screams on him during the Shiva.
Screams on him during the Shiva, screams on him during his birthdays, goes after him, like I kept mentioning, physically abusive towards him, outright rejection, right? And your mother, like, not only blaming you for the death of your brother, but also just rejecting you, basically. Like as I said, she loathes Mark. Loathes.
That's a good word. Yeah.
Right. And again, this is an adult. This is your mother. This is the mother figure. This is the only one you have. And yeah, you got a dad, but it's also just like, you was, as far as like I said, maybe he was 10 there. You're living this life where you've had a mom, everything been perfect and peachy keen, and then all of a sudden this situation happens, and now it's just like you're dead to her.
I couldn't imagine. Like, my mom was my most important. Yeah, I can't.
Right. So that would, I guess, I'm sitting there going through it like I'm about to have a heart attack. Imagine a child. How else would that child deal with that? Like especially that scene where Mark's mom is beating on the door. Like, it was. I was thinking of what's the HBO show with Rue and them? But I was thinking of the girl begging on the door. But
God, Euphoria.
Euphoria. I'm sorry.
Wait, when she was in the bathroom with her man,
homegirl banging on the door real loud. But
she was in the bathroom with her man, and she banging on the door.
I'm sorry why that picture came up, but that's me, and that's my mental trying to move away from how dark this is.
Oh my God, right?
But yeah, but Mark's mom, the way like she was aggressively, violently banging on the door, and I was like, oh, she gonna knock this little nigga out. She gonna hurt him. Like, violence when you see, hear, smell violence. You know it's coming. And the way she was going in, and he was just trying to, like I said, this is after some time of abuse, right? So he knows what's coming. He has his door locked, and it's just like, it just becomes too much. As a person, let alone a child, what do you do? How do you steal yourself away from that? He mentally steals himself away, and here comes Steven.
Like, as we're recording this, if you are watching me on Twitch right now or on YouTube, I am shivering because, like I said, I dealt with a father who was definitely physical, and my mom was my solace from that. And because, banging on the door, all that, I've been through it. You know what I mean? I done seen the belts. I done seen all that. You know what I mean? So it's like, that part of it was, triggering for me. But the fact that and then my dad wasn't, at the same time, he wasn't this person who was like, you're dead to me. He was just a wild boy, in a way. Mm-hmm. So, and in other ways, he was the most supportive man I've ever known. So it's a real weird dichotomy with him.
Right. You mentioned Mark's dad. His name is Elias Spector. And like him, he also has a way of not facing the truth as well. Yep. Because you see, like, the first time that Mark runs away when he's like a teenager, maybe 16 or whatever, and he's just like, why? He begs his dad, why didn't you fix it? Mm-hmm. Like, and again, how is his dad supposed to fix it? Right? You can't fix per se something like that. But as a child, you're like, yo, you're supposed to protect me from this, even if it's your wife.
Yep.
Even if it's a family member. And just you just think about all the forms of abuse people go through, and it's like they look at the closest around them like, you should be protecting me.
Yep.
And it's not happening.
I did the same shit.
And lots of times, sometimes people don't know. Sometimes they know, they don't know how. And sometimes they're just fucked up and like don't want to step in for whatever reason. But like for me, it felt like Elias wanted things to get better. Like, he still tried to have all the birthdays, and made excuses for his mother. But it's also like, I feel what young Mark is saying. Like, yo, like, maybe she needed to go get some help. Maybe you needed to not put her someplace, but maybe she needed to talk to somebody, right? Maybe she needed a specialist or something.
Yeah, but he was just living in complete denial by that point.
Complete denial.
You see at the birthday party. So she'll come down, let's have a normal birthday party. Can't have your birthday without your favorite cake? Like, come on,
It's been years, my guy.
Yeah.
That ma'am is not coming down. Or if she's coming down, she left off the E&J. Like, she's not here for Mark.
That shit went from 10 candles to 12 real quick, bro.
Right.
Like, that's 2 years on that ass.
It's been years.
Hold that. And then by the time he leaving, like, you're right, 16, that's 6 years of that. Come
right.
on.
And then he's out there begging Mark, he don't want to lose another son. Like, it was heartbreaking. My mom was like, fam, what do you expect? Like, once I'm old enough to get the fuck, I'm getting the fuck. Are you serious right now? It is what it is.
And we got to talk about the death of his brother, though, right? Because outside of the cave, we see the bones looking like Khonshu.
Yes. So, is that trying to say Khonshu had anything to do with this? So, that's the part. And I was like, what is this supposed to signify or symbolize? Is this just saying, yo, this is the mark of Khonshu? Like, yo, Khonshu. And that's what Steven is alluding to. And I think people miss that part. And thank you for mentioning that, Ben. Like, later on when they're in Khonshu's cave, but Khonshu's tomb, Steven's like, oh, he's been manipulating you the whole time. I think Steven's talking about from childhood, not just when Mark was rolling up with the gat to his neck. Like, I think Steven was talking about this whole fucking time, the whole 30 years or whatever, how long man's is.
I mean, Khonshu did say your mind is fractured and broken. I like that.
And you're a perfect candidate. Perfect
candidate.
First of all,
but during this time too, you know,
as you saw
just for now.
As you saw during the Egyptian Gods tribunal, when Harold was eating Khonshu up in the courtroom, Harold was like, "Yo, you see who the avatar he picked? His mind's all fucked up, and that's not a good thing to pick an avatar. Apparently, it's not a good thing to pick an avatar that has mental concerns. So why?
I mean, Harold's like he picked me, dog.
Right,
you know,
right,
so
right.
you already know this man ain't got good taste. You know what I mean?
Well, Harold's
he
like,
just downgraded after me, dog.
But not necessarily, because Harold's still an avatar, right? Just for a different god.
True.
So, you know what I'm saying? So it's not that. Harold's like, yo, I'm grade A stock, and here comes great value Mark. So, and that's my point. Like, Harold made it clear, like, yo, yeah, his mind's messed up. Why would you choose him? So to me, it's like, then if you go back, if you use that, then why would that be a good quality for an avatar to have? Why would Khonshu say that unless he was fucking manipulating him? Who says that? Like, oh, your mind's messed up. I want you.
A pimp.
A pimp. Oh, Khonshu's a pimp.
Khonshu. A pimp named Khonshu, boy.
See that? See where we're getting off? But yes, then bones. Was it just to say, like I said, was this just Mark's mind filling in some gaps? Like, again, these are memories, quote unquote, and some of this stuff isn't necessarily real. But also, was that the mark of some wrongdoing early on in his life?
Little bit of column A, little bit of column B.
And let me tell
why
you
not both?
Why, as soon as the boys got up to the cave, like it was a bright fucking sunny day, I assume not a cloud in the sky. All of a sudden, it started pouring down raining.
Quick. You ain't that little boy up. Yeah.
See?
And like they said, Khonshu can do little things like that, you know?
Right. He may not be able to touch people directly, but he can sway
he
things,
can get you
right?
touched.
Ooh, say that again, BenHaMeen.
He might not be able to touch you directly, but he can get you touched, boy.
And
you know?
I knew what was going to happen, like when they rolled up to the two boys, when they rolled up to the cave, because
oh, yeah.
Like, you know, of course the rain started and Randall's like, oh, mom said that we weren't supposed to go in
But
here.
see,
you know,
and Mark. But
and Mark's like, oh, don't be a baby.
Look at Mark, see? And they're like, oh, you were a kid. Fam, still, though. Still. I get it, he was a kid, but still, though.
No. I know not you blaming Mark just for calling him a baby. No, these are children. You don't, first of all, that frontal lobe is not fully formed until you like mid-late 20s, okay? That's number one. Number two, especially as a kid, you're not thinking of imminent danger. You're just thinking, as he said, oh, you're just being a baby. We'll be fine. Like, you don't think that things could escalate quickly as it did. So, no, I'm not about to sit here and blame little 10-year-old Marky Mark. No.
I'm not blaming him. No, I'm not blaming him for his brother's death. No. You know, he deserves to.
You blame him for his attitude of saying he's a baby? Which one is it?
Yeah,
man. BenHaMeen, really?
A little bit of bully. You know, I was bullied as a kid, man. I felt, I felt a little of the bully coming out of that man right there. You know what I mean? And like I say, there's look, Mark got a long.
You have siblings, I have siblings. You have siblings as well. But my thing is, you don't think, even when that bullying is happening, they're not thinking, oh, because the next step is death. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not thinking
yes.
like again, when you're that young, especially that young, but even as you're young, you don't think ahead. You don't think the next steps. You don't think the potential consequences. You just think, I want to play, and this is what it is now. Like niggas that just be jumping off roofs. Oh, I wanted to see if I could fly. And you're like, nigga, did you think that you can't fly? You don't have wings and XYZ, right? No, you didn't think it through. You just thought, I just want to see.
Well, they die every day, B. You know what I mean? And look, like I said, Mark got a whole long laundry list of things to answer. You know, so I'm not even worried about that. Look, he can stay for that one. I got a million other questions for that man.
A million questions. And as we close out this understanding of like facing death and facing the truth and all this other stuff, we get to see, I mean, first of all, Mark was aggressively against this in the beginning, but we get to see Mark / Steven facing the memories, facing the true experiences. And the audience and Steven get to see all of this stuff that we're never seen before. We get to see more into Marc's life, why he's the person he is. We get to see a lot of, like, as you said, they needed this episode. They filled in so many fucking blanks. And I'm glad they did it this way, because it was just like, it answered the who is Marc, right?
Grimy.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, Marc aggressive against Steven, finding out about his experiences. You see Marc's room of frozen bodies. He calls them Dubai, Gabon, New York. All the people he's killed, he remembered them. All the people he's killed under, as a Moon Knight for Khonshu's purposes. He remembers every face.
Does he though? Yeah, but he don't remember their name.
He remembers the city. Who cares? He remembers the face.
The city.
He remembers them
Look
enough.
at him.
He remember, but who says that he knew their name to begin with?
Should have found out. You out there murdering.
Why? The fact enough that he's remembered the people, and enough that they're in his memories, fully formed in his dead, but fully formed.
I will tell you why. Because if Khonshu comes around and is like, murder this person, I'm going to find out why he wants me to murder this person and who this person is.
Are you though?
I am.
Are you though?
I am.
Okay,
I'm gonna question the man. I gotta question him.
Maybe, but
you
also
just don't
look
serve
at the
him blindly.
Yeah, look at the circumstances of which Marc accepted the servitude.
Well, all right, see,
It was
that's what I'm
kind
saying.
of I don't even want to use that term. It was kind of like without thinking ahead. Like, and then again, how would you think ahead when you're in a state of death or about to kill yourself?
Yeah, but once you get out of that, you can be like, look.
Do you ever get out of it?
Doesn't
That's
Batman, investigate who he beat up on at the very least?
Listen, but Batman had a choice. Batman chose to become Batman, okay? Technically,
Moon Knight had a choice. He had a big
technically,
choice.
Marc had a choice, but also he was being manipulated. And that's what I'm saying. He signed a contract under duress. The man was about to kill himself. The man being Marc.
I get that. Okay, but see, that is my point. Like, all right, the man had made the choice to kill himself. Then this man offers him what is a very questionable existence, to say the least.
Questionable to someone who is outside of that experience and not sitting there.
Let me go there, right? Because if you're just trying to accept that some unknown deity is like, kill this person, kill that person, kill that person, you are, to me, at that point, no better than Harrow. Because especially if you don't take the time to even find out whether or not he's right, because they're just saying kill whoever. Well, they're the ones who are saying they're wrong.
Well, even Steven owns up to that, right? Like Marc owns up to that. Like Steven has says to him, "Oh, you being manipulated," and Marc was like, "Nah, I just chose to be more of what I was, a killer."
Yeah, I'm a murderer.
He owned up to it. Yeah. I'm also saying though, like the man still signed a contract under duress. That is legitimately the definition, the physical definition right there. So my thing is, I don't expect him to think, hey, yo, this may not be a good deal, or why would you agree to this, right? Sure, like you said, maybe down the line, he's like, hey, maybe he should start asking some questions, but it's also just like, if you're already fucked up in the head, are you really going to ask those questions?
Look, every rapper signs a bad deal and renegotiates after the second album, fam. After you put two bodies in the ground, you got to figure out better deal.
But, but that was the terms of the deal. The terms was take out the niggas who are against the travels in the night. That was the terms of the deal.
Yeah, but who are you to say they are?
He was a guy. He kept Marc alive.
My point is, Marc was already going to body himself. Like, that's the thing. Marc was already ready to put himself in the ground. Once you're ready to put yourself in the ground, just because somebody comes along and says, hey, you can live now, but that's all. No.
Is it somebody?
It doesn't matter. That's what I mean. It's not somebody. It could be anybody. You might have just signed on with the worst preacher in existence, but you were already ready to eat the bullet. You are a grimy bastard already at this point. Eating the bullet is not going to, you not eating the bullet is not helping the world. Because as I keep saying, once you don't eat the bullet, what does this man do? Kill random people, sleep with the woman whose father he helped have murdered.
He didn't really help have the murder. He was there when it happened. He wasn't. Remember, he said he wasn't down with Bushman, his
allegedly. Boy. Sounds good now, doesn't it?
I believe him saying that he wasn't down with that actually happening like that.
Okay,
because why else would he be on his last leg about to kill himself?
Well, I also believe
fucked up. Like someone beat him up.
No, he was shot. That's why he was about to kill himself. He didn't want to sit there and suffer.
He didn't want to suffer. You know how they said they want to just take it out of your misery. So my thing is, I believe him, because why else would he have been shot if he wasn't trying to stop it?
Oh no, I believe he got shot. Right, he had a change of heart. But at the same time, I do believe this man is a murderer. Like
Change
you
of
said.
heart. You mean he went? I don't think that's the thing. I don't
No,
think
he
Mark
didn't
went
know
in
that
there
was
about to
going
kill
down.
Man.
No, he didn't
Right.
want. Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
But what I'm also saying, if Mans was somebody else, or if it was a different situation, Mark would have murdered him with no problem. Mark was a killer. It wasn't like Mark became a killer for Khonshu. Mark was a person who worked in the army, and then when he got out, he became a mercenary.
He did become a mercenary.
A
Right.
murderer for money.
Murderer for hire.
A murderer with no cause, no reason. Like, at least you could say, most people, like, if we go for the war for America, they have whatever reason, but they're going to war, because they believe in this country. That man was just like, yo, give me money, I go to war. That's a wild person.
He's already wild.
There's a lot of other jobs you can
with.
find. You know what I mean? There's always work at the post office, folks.
A little movie humor there.
Yeah, Hollywood Shuffle, one of the greatest of all time.
Well, like I said, I don't think
and
mentally.
Like he got a second life and was like, hey,
Yeah. Well,
how can I make this work?
Like I said, he was in the armed forces. I just don't think that after you get discharged. He said he was in a fugue state and was discharged. Like, I don't think your next step is, I'll get a job in the post office. Like, I just don't think mentally you're thinking like that.
I know I'll go kill more people because I'm a murderer.
That is what he said.
we gotta
what he said.
Like I say, I don't know how my man ended up in no fields at the end. I just don't get it. I honestly had to be watching to remember who fell off the boat because I was like, ain't no way Mark made it, right? I was like, ain't no way Mark made it, right?
And that what you say kind of also just reminds me and tries to question like the Egyptian mythology behind it, because when they said your heart has to be balanced, I thought your heart had to be righteous.
No, I think what it is you have to come to terms with it.
Oh, just come to terms. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether it's not about good or bad. It's just come to terms.
It's because that's the thing. Like what I've learned about most things about the afterlife and what I believe in it is it's a self-created thing. So it's like if you blame yourself, if you feel guilty, you're going to create a hell for yourself. Your mental energy will live on like that. But if you believe, that you've lived a good life, etc., your mind will create what you envision it to be. Like how they said, there's multiple planes of afterlives. And that's why, like, I think I've always seen the quote attributed to Malcolm X where he said something like, you live your life in a way that your mind becomes eternal, or you live your life in a way that your mind turns to dust.
So why in the story do you weigh your heart against the feather of Mott? Like,
because the feather of Mott is just that, like, still.
If it's not about righteousness, it's just about what?
Well, it's never about righteousness. It's like Christians say that if you, repent, then you go to heaven. Like if you say, Jesus, I'm sorry for everything I've done, truly sorry for everything I've done on earth, I accept you as my Lord and Savior, you go to heaven. You could have done a lot of dirt before that.
This is facts. But it also makes me question, if that's the case, it also makes me question.
Christianity comes from Egyptian mythology too.
Yeah, it makes me question what Khonshu and Amit do, because who are they then to judge right and wrong if at the end of the day it's just about are you come to terms with yourself? And so you're telling me that you could have been a killer, as Mark is, but if you're able to balance your heart and your scales, you can still get accepted into the afterlife, the field of reeds. So that could be anybody, right? So what's the point then of judgment?
And that goes back to my thing about Khonshu and Amit not being much different from each other. I've been saying that from the beginning of the show. And that's why I keep saying, Mark, if you don't even know their names, dog, that's not impressing me that you know their cities. You know what I mean? Like I said before, I've experienced some melodies in my time, and I like to say I remember, most of the names, dog, not just the cities.
Ben said you got to come harder than that.
I didn't even kill nobody, you know what I mean, fam? Like, come on, bro. You got to remember things. And you got to investigate, dog. This man is like the worst version of Batman. He broke. He's nuts. And he just beats up people randomly.
Oh, goodness.
He can't even say he gave money away as Bruce Wayne, dog. This dude needs money.
Yeah. The rest of the memories, this cave exploration where his brother drowns. Again, we saw the the literal transaction of where Mark first becomes Moon Knight from Khonshu. You also see when Mark's standing drunk outside of his mom's the house where the Shiva is taking place, and we find out that incident that happened 2 months ago. 2 months ago to what is supposedly present time, and apparently it's that traumatic feeling, him having to go back, and you saw like how his heart broke again, like, and how complex is that feeling, right? Like remember everything we just said in the last like 20 minutes, everything we said about how messed up Mark's childhood became, how just increasingly violent and really bizarre and just untenable his life was, just to then years later as an adult, like you can't, like you like that's your mom and you still feel away, right? Like you still probably feel love for her, but you also feel pain and you feel guilt and you also feel anger amongst a million other things. And what happens? Mark cannot contain, like he can't negotiate that mentally. It's too much for him. And we see Steven reemerge.
I mean, I tell people all the time, like the two most traumatic events in my life were being incarcerated and my mom passing away. And both of them are the type of situations where it's just, no matter how long it's been, it might get better, but there's always that regret, that pain, that anger, that this, that
the regret.
Down the line, always. And you just gotta live with it. And that's why, like, when I realized where they were going with his mom with this show, I didn't realize how dark it was going to get, but it was, I was already getting ready because I know I'd been there. You know, I've been so close to that. Like, when we talked with Dr. Dre, and I was like, yo, you know, there but for the grace of God, because I've been so close. I mean, I was in mental, you know, but I wasn't having, you know, split DID, but I was having other issues, you know, and it was like, wow, it could have been that bad, you know?
Yeah. And it's probably around this time, like when Mark's dad admitted him into Putnam Psychiatric Hospital, because with Mark being so overwhelmed with the grief and the sadness, and as you say, there's just everything that comes along with this type of traumatic event. Like, this is the second trigger that like major trigger that's happened to him in his life, or maybe the third if you don't count him dying almost and being turned into Moon Knight. But this type of trigger it's as we see, or what Mark says, this is when our lives started bleeding to each other. So when Mark nor Steven, you know, are in those states where it's not, I guess Mark is no longer in control, and where it was a period where it was just Steven living out his life, somehow ended up in London, all this other stuff, thinking the mom is alive. Like, because you don't want to face the truth, right? So what happened? And as we said, Steven wasn't talking to nobody. He was just, because the way he was just having these conversations, it wasn't like he were waiting for a response. He was just talking.
But in his mind, he's hearing his mom talk back to him, everything.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And all of this, which is why I'm just like, I don't even know the truth about if this is all actually happened or not still. It's because, and it happens like 3 times, that when you break through to what we think is the real life, where we have Mark in the psychiatric hospital with Dr. Harrow. Dr. Harrow says Mark has just like this, like everything we're seeing is essentially a personification of this therapy session. That Mark has been peering inwards. He's been coming face to face with his own memories for hours.
But then, once again, where I feel like this is all trick is when he talks to Steven finally, and he says that Steven brought him in. That Steven is the one who's been coming here. He's a lie. It's all, that's what I'm saying. I don't trust that part of it. I do believe that everything we've seen to a point is real.
So, and let me clarify, because I know some people may be getting confused. So what we know canonically, is that how you pronounce it? What we know from this comic stories is, or what we seem to be understanding is, it's Steven's dad that admits him to the psychiatric hospital. Excuse me, it's Mark's dad, Mark Spector, that is admitted to this hospital by his father, right? Yep. So that's where we came in this. What Ben is saying is, based on what Dr. Harrow is saying, is your alter Steven is the one who brought you in and said you needed help.
He tells Mark that Mark brought him in, and he tells Steven that Steven brought him in.
Right. So he's telling each, oh, you're right.
Yes.
He's telling each of these, he's telling the primary and the alter that the other person was trying to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just a tool that the doctor, and we have to talk to Dr. Dre about that. Is this just a tool that the psychiatrist, Dr. Harrow, is using? Or is this, as you say, is this a lie? Is this trickery?
I seriously doubt Dr. Dre would recommend telling an alter a lie or a lie. You know what I mean? And that's what he's doing, because one of them did not bring themselves in, even if either of them did. And I don't think either of them did, because I think the whole hospital's a sham. But no, I do not think that would be the right thing to do with an alter. Be like, oh yeah, let me lie to you real quick. When you're already having a hard time experiencing reality as it is, you need people you can trust at that point. That sounds, I wouldn't do that to somebody.
That was a good ear that you realized that he said the same thing to each of them. But
when he flipped it to Steven, I was like, look at this, like, come on, bruh. You just told me that other shit 5 minutes ago. Like, hold up, dog. Yeah, nah.
Anything else you want to mention just in terms of like the themes of like facing the truth or facing death? And I mean, we literally see death being faced several times, unfortunately, but.
Unfortunately, no, I think the one thing that I do want to talk about as far as themes, and it goes back to tone, is that once again, this episode veers wildly in tone for me. Like there's this like video game level thing going on with the Hippo Gawd, where she's like, you need more memories to access this level.
Tower
Tower, and they come running back into the thing, collect some more memories. And then the memories are the darkest ish you've ever seen in any Marvel show ever. And then it's like, you need more memories, and it's like, fight the zombies, and all this goofiness. And then it's, dark. So that was my one problem. But at the same time, I feel like it was so ridiculously dark that you needed something to balance that out.
Yeah. And it's also, at the end of the day, it's a Marvel production, right? So you need some type of action scene. You need some type of fighting to happen. Like,
yeah.
Even if all of this is just happening in a mind, you have to show it physically.
Yeah.
Visually in some way.
Show don't tell. So I get it.
Yeah.
But I thought you need more memories. I was crying laughing at it, because then they go running back into the door, and it's like they're on the different levels of the video game, So I was laughing.
What movie was that? Was it Inside Out, or Inside? Where you had to get a core memory?
Yes, Inside Out. Yes, Inside Out. Yeah.
That was another heartbreaking movie. I love that movie. I was stuck on a plane when I was watching that, and I was bawling, and they were looking at me like, "Are you okay?" But
I read the script before I even saw it, and the script had me bawling, and then I saw it, and it had me bawling. So it's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I think that's it as far as all that. Yep.
So that means we got to talk about these characters.
Mm.
Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, Moon Knight, Mr. Knight. We have one more episode before we don't see them for a while. Played by Oscar Isaac. Let's get into just a little bit more about Stephen. I had to say this, pour one out for my nigga Stephen, my son's son. I can't believe they took him. I miss my Uncle Charles, y'all.
My man went over the boat like bloop.
When that happened, and earlier I told Ben, I said, yo, this is very Game of Thrones for me, this episode.
Oh yeah, what was that? Why? Yeah.
Because the way George R.R. just be taking niggas from you, like, now you've aligned yourself and you feel good about this character, and like, remember, if you recall, Ben, not too long ago, just a few episodes ago, we were calling Steven the biggest loser in the world. Remember, we was going in on him. We had every name in the book for Mans.
Spun from wheat cloth. He came
Spun
together.
from wheat cloth. You said that shit.
Yeah, he came back though. He
but
showed
this
you that.
Episode, that was Steven was my Mans, and I was like, oh, I actually do like you, fam. Like, I realized, like, regardless of how I was feeling, he was still imprinting himself on me, right? Like, he was still a familiar person, a familiar feeling, a familiar thought, and I was engaged with Steven. So for him to be taken from me, I was just like, my nigga, like, again, George R.R. Martin all the way.
Yeah, no, and I might have dogged Steven out, but I told you from early, like, I had sympathy for him because I knew what he was going through. He did not understand any of what his life was like. He didn't have the advantages that Mark did. And I also related to Steven because I was that, very awkward person where I just didn't know what to say half the time. And not because I was going through dream states, but that's just who I was. So I related to Steven. But yeah, man, my man's took a tumble.
No, don't say took a tumble now.
Dog, I couldn't believe it. I was like, ain't no way Mark made it.
I couldn't
Mark
believe
standing
it
in the field like, word?
And like, I get why they had to do it, but I was just like, no. Like, I was just like, they just fucking told you if you fall down there, you're done. He did go out honorable. Like at the end of the day, he made himself complete, right? Like, Steven always felt like he didn't have the power within him. That's why we always say he was kind of a loser. Like, yo, it's right there with you. Like how we, like when the whole date thing was like, yo, you should have just said yes. Like, yo, you should have just took charge of your life. You should have just took charge of yourself. And he finally did this, right? He was just like, wait a minute. If we're basically the same person, or you dreamed me up, I got the same abilities as you, right? Like, that's what he fucking realized. And he was just like, I'm going to save my mans. Like, at the end of the day, Steven is Marc. And Steven's not going to let nothing happen to his boy. And so to see him save Marc from New York and Gabon and all these other places, it's just like, you saw it almost happen to Marc when he almost got tumbled overboard. But I was just like, y'all not going to do this. Y'all not going to. And then Steven went over. And I'm like, and then to see Marc screaming, stop the boat. No. Like, oh, like I legit wanted to cry right there because I'm like, there ain't no stopping the boat. Like, there's no stopping. There's no, like, you have to leave that part of you behind. And that again, that pain, and this is all personifications of the mind. Like, when you as a person, you're going through things where people like, you got to let shit go. And it's hard to let shit go, right? Like, you feel like that. Like, I don't want them to fall off the boat. I want them to come with me. I want my anger, or I want this other feeling to come with me. I want this other side of me to be with me, even though it may be weighing me down, even though it may be detrimental at the end of the day. Because what happened as soon as Steven turned into stone sand, as soon as that happened, the scales balanced.
Because then he had, all the things that Steven was there for, being that stress ball, had now been taken back into Marc.
Tawada said, "Oh, when their scales were first going crazy, she was just like, yo, y'all are not complete. Y'all are incomplete people." And I'm just like, oh, like the pain. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe somehow Marc's gonna reabsorb Steven, and technically he did if you think about it. But it's just, why like that? Why like that? Not, but what's Switch say on the Matrix? Not like this.
Not like this.
Not like that.
Not like this. It's really like, not like this. Yeah. Not like this. He goes real like all into it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You got this callback here though that you gotta mention.
Yo, this shit is the coldest. This is the coldest. So as you said, Ben, at Steven takes a tumble, he gets turned into stone with the rest of the unbalanced souls. Marc miraculously end up in the fields of reed, which is heaven, afterlife, and it's just like, what? How? Right? Even I was like with Marc, like, how, fam? I don't understand. You don't deserve. But let me tell you, they said this already. Episode 1, when Steven was in the museum and he was trying to show that little girl around, he's trying to be a fake tour guide. Remember when she played him and said, how did it feel to be rejected from the fields of reeds? Foreshadowing than a motherfucker. And also, who is this child? Yeah. Was that Amit fucking with him like early on? Like, what is this? Or
Khonshu? Well, no, Khonshu was locked at that point. So
yeah,
Khonshu don't even know. Khonshu was sitting in a statue. Like, what is going on out there?
Well, when Steven had this interaction with this girl, this was before Khonshu got locked away. This was early in the series.
Yeah,
like I said, it was like episode 1 or so.
I think if Khonshu could see the future, he wouldn't have got locked away.
No, that too. Yep. But I was just like, hey, yo, why did this show have to do that?
This ice trolled.
That's some cold-blooded shit. Like, and then remember, he was just like, what are you talking about? I'm not dead. You got to be dead to be there.
She already knew.
She already fucking knew, a little girl.
Yeah, truth from the mouth of babes.
This is harsh. And once again, some Game of Thrones. This is George is going ham on this script. I don't care what nobody say. He got his hand in this. This is wild. Steve, what we learned about Steven more so is that he doesn't remember like all the bad experiences with Nancy Spector, again, which is why he thinks his mom is alive. He swears he hear her voice. You saw that part where I guess this is the third time that Steven / Marc wakes up. And Steven insists that his mom's alive, and And Dr. Harrow's like, here, I'm going to call her. And that's another thing that was weird to me. He was like, yeah, I'm going to call her, right? Like, we got her number on file. And it was two things you were seeing. You were seeing Steven come to terms with the truth that Mark just told him and showed him that your mother's been passed away. And you were just, and like, you didn't know because I kept you from all the bad stuff, but also I'm telling you the truth and you're still not accepting it. But then also you have Dr. Harrow saying, oh yeah, we can call her right now. Who was he calling?
Amit.
He was like, listen, you could hear her voice, and even held it up to him. And then that's when finally Steven, like in tears, was like, in realization too, was like, and acceptance was like, nah, she's dead.
Because Harrow's obviously trying to break him down. To what point, we don't really know, other than like what we theorized last week, is that he is trying to get the scarab off of him somehow still, and he needs him to break down, or that little statue of Amit so you can free Amit.
It must be the statue of Amit because he has the scarab, so...
Yeah, the statue of Amit.
Yeah.
But what I still don't understand why he didn't just snatch it off his dead body. But maybe there must be something. And he can't open it?
Well, first of all, the physical world we think we're in, it was in Amit's tomb, where homeboy got shot in the heart and is now laying in a pool of water.
Yes. And why doesn't Harrow just bend over and pick up the statue and bust it open? Maybe there's a lot of stuff that could be happening, but I hear you. Like, I think it's a metaphysical issue that he needs him because he has the statue. He can't get it open without his help.
And Harrow says that he was like, "Oh, I told Mark he needs to open up to you." Like he's even trying to like merge them together. It's a lot going on. Steven, as we know, he's the alter that was made up, quote unquote. He had that British accent, and we also find out that it's because Mark modeled him after Dr. Stephen Grant.
Yep.
Which, if we're to believe that this is all real life, that Tomb Buster movie was real, and that was a movie that Mark and his brother would watch as kids, and when they would go exploring, Mark would pretend to be Dr. Grant, and his brother Randall would pretend to be Rosser. That name is a mess, but he would pretend to be Rosser. So you have, and what did Dr. Harrow say about like the organizing principles and things like that? Like you just try to attach memories and thoughts to things that you are familiar with, right? So for Mark to dream up or concoct Steven, and then Steven takes on this British accent and this personality, right? That had, and as far as you know, like where did Steven get that from the movie?
Yeah, from the movie.
And he gets to live, as Mark says, you get to live your simple, normal life, thinking your mother still loves you and that she's alive, which is also cold as fuck. And once again, it's like you keep making decisions for other people, but it's also a little hard because it's like, well, he's talking to himself, but
Eesh.
Yeah. Ben, I feel like this is Inception because technically there are like 3 times that Mark wakes up. Okay. He first, when like you saw at the end of episode 4, when they're screaming because they just see Tarot like in the flesh, and they're just like, "What the fuck is this?" Mark wakes up, or who we think is Mark, right? You see Mark, he has a gash or like a bandage on his nose, and he's speaking with Dr. Harrow. And as the conversation is going, he gets violent. He picks up like this glass, looks like a pyramid type thing, and he threatens to kill Harrow. And then the orderlies run in and they inject Mark, quote unquote. Is this Mark or is this Jake, the other alter that we said? We know there's a third alter.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, one, I'm not even sure that he's even attempting to kill Harrow as much as he's attempting to kill himself. Because in the last shot, as they're sticking a thing in his needle, that thing is close to his own neck.
This is true.
Yeah.
But maybe he tried for Harrow. Was like, well, I'm going to get somebody. Like,
Either one of us solves this problem.
Right. Like, and remember how and whether this is the character Jake from the comics, whatever, who knows? But why at least I'm so adamant that there's a third altar is because we saw the third sarcophagus that was shaken, and clearly altars jump out of these sarcophagus, and they didn't open that one. They just looked at it and kept it pushing. Then like that time in the desert when Mark was like, I didn't do that ultra-violent shit. And Steven was like, well, I didn't do it. So, who did that shit? There was another blackout period where there was somebody else in control of the body. And it wasn't Khonshu either.
Yep. So you believe because when Mark wakes up, he doesn't have the wound on his nose.
Yeah. And I'm trying to in my head to try to keep this in order. Like I call it wake up scene number 1, where again, after the screaming, after seeing the Hippo Gawd, they wake up. That's where you see Mark with the bandage on his nose. He got the blood and like he got beat up a bit. And
he doesn't call him Mark in that scene?
I don't even know if he uses a name. He just talks to him. If I'm not
mistaken.
He
uses it.
I'm pretty
sure.
He does call him Mark, but
he identifies him as Mark in all the scenes and then switches to Steven when it's Steven.
But then the reason why I also have this question is because then when Mark wakes up again, I call the wake up scene number 2. He does not have this wound or gash, or he doesn't even look like he's been touched. And then he basically says, Dr. Harrow, he was like, he's feeling his neck like, like he got injected and asked about it. And Harrow says, we don't involuntarily inject patients. They, we haven't done that for years. Like the man's is crazy. So I'm like, nigga, what is going on?
No, what that is Harrow manipulating him again. What it is it's not The Matrix, but it's another film like that where they're fixing the reality so that he doesn't think it's wrong. So like in the first one, he's effed up because he was just shot. And then he wakes up and he's like, no, you weren't shot, dog. Look, you're fine. No bruises, no pain, no nothing. No, we don't inject patients, even though we just did. That's just a blatant lie to him because he just did it to him.
It felt like a lie when he said it.
Yeah, and he obviously probably doesn't have the injection mark on his neck anymore either, so he can get away with that. So that's just them fixing the reality to make him more comfortable until they can get what they need from him.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oof. And we do get to see the inception of this version of Moon Knight. We get and is this from the comics or is this something they wrote for this show? Do you swear to protect the travelers of the night and bring my vengeance to those who would do harm?
I feel like that sounds like something from the comics, but I'm not 100 on that.
Okay.
It really feels like some Green Lantern-ish, Yeah. Like Green Lantern has an oath. I didn't know Moon Knight has an oath, but he might.
Yeah, this is very oath. And he calls him Khonshu's. He's Khonshu's Fist of Vengeance and Khonshu's Moon Knight.
Oh yeah, the Fist of Vengeance. Now that's straight from the comics. He's always been the Fist of Vengeance, which is such an awesome name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about any of these people / alters /
I mean,
avatars?
I still hold that Mark could have just offed himself and saved the world a whole lot of trouble.
Oh God!
Look, you know what I mean? Look, we do this every time, dog. We identify with these MCU heroes because they're attractive when these people are huge monsters.
Yeah.
Monsters, lady.
Speaking of monsters, and I'm thinking of Dr. Harrow / Harrow himself, like
another
Arthur Harrow.
Monster.
He's a monster, and also why I feel like why this show has so many levels, because even the way that they're writing his character and this whole situation with the psychiatric hospital, like you said, this could be Harrow just manipulating him with power of Amen and all this other stuff. Harrow himself is 2 people, right? He's Dr. Harrow or he's Arthur Harrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have these shades of DID just as a ribbon throughout everyone's storyline. Like everyone, and they say that about everyone in the world, right? Everyone has 2 sides, but to like really physically see that and see that play out and how people, at least in this show, how that's been used for manipulation.
But that's the whole duality of everything, and that's what this show is also really exploring. It's the duality of everybody. And that everybody has 2 sides, and that a monster like Mark can also be a great person.
You do not fuck with Mark, man.
No, I'm just saying. Look. You know me. I fuck with all the MCU heroes. I just say they fall in a long tradition of being monsters and eventually redeeming themselves at some point. Like Tony Stark, waited till that man was like, "Oh, time to die. All right, redemption." It's like up until that point, monster, and then right before I die, let me get right with God. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And apologies, y'all, for my multiple pronunciations of Taweret.
Yeah, you got me.
Taweret. I've been saying it like 3-4 different ways. It is what it is. Y'all gonna get it.
Taweret. I was gonna go with a Tawafet.
Taweret. Well, Steven pronounced it Taweret, and I pronounce it my New York way. But anyway, like we told y'all before, this is Tawera is the protective ancient Egyptian goddess of childbirth and fertility, and she seemed friendly enough, and we see she welcomes them to the realm of the Duat. We had mentioned we thought this could be like the overvoid or whatever, and hellish. It could still be, but she says that this is the Egyptian underworld, right? The afterlife. And she mentions it to try to bring it all into MCU canon. Like, that was literally the only reason for this line. She says, there's lots of intersectional planes of untethered consciousness, like the ancestral plane, right? Shout out to Black Panther.
I really like that line of untethered consciousness too.
Yeah. That was cool. But that was really like the main purpose of that line. Like, yo, we are part of the MCU, believe it or not. Yes, this is mystical, but it also furthers the mysticism within the MCU, and I think primes people to start as they start getting ready for Doctor Strange, because like we've already been introduced to magic and things, and now these Disney Plus shows, particularly starting with WandaVision, like you're starting to get more and more to the magic part of things, right? You got the talking trees, you got the mad titans and gems and all this other stuff, but now you got magic coming in. Now we have with Loki, timelines and the multiverse and shit like that. So like, I just think that all of these different stories are just trying to prime everybody for the MCU films.
Also, like in Thor, in Thor Love and Thunder, we're going to see Zeus and the pantheon of the Greek gods.
There it is.
So that's already going to need a question to be answered. And also, I really like, it was a line that kind of, I had a while, I was like, what's going on with that? But then I was like, oh, that's dope, right? Hippo Gawd says that it's been a while since she's performed the rites of passage for someone. And I'm like, why? But then I thought about it. There's not a lot of people believing in Taweret and the rest of this pantheon right now. So it'd be a whole rare time when someone would pass through. It's not like even in modern Egypt where they're running around worshiping ancient gods right now. Most of them are Arabic or Christian.
Right. You're right.
Yeah. And so it was really interesting. I was like, oh, that was a dope line. And I had to think about it for a second. And then of course, later on, you saw that purple rain coming through. Because they was...
Oh, let's talk about that purple rain, the Black Panther purple rain, because when that was happening, like it was like shooting stars like falling to earth or falling to the Duat. And she says, oh, those are unbalanced souls that are being sent here before their time. Meaning Amit and Harrow and them is up there already starting shit.
Yeah, putting in work already.
So
look, they got a lot to get through.
But that also questions then to me, like, when is this happening? Because I know you said perhaps, and I know this was just a hypothesis. You said perhaps Harrow is doing this because he needs something from Steven or he needs him. But I'm just like, so is this happening in real time or has this happened already? Like, when they say these souls are coming down, is this from what we've seen in the previous episodes where Harrow's just condemning people left and right? Or is this because he has Amit now and now they're going to work?
I'm sure it's a little bit of both,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I feel like he's definitely going to work. And like maybe he's not needing Steven to free Amit, Marc Steven to free Amit. Maybe he's just trying to put Marc Steven down for good so he ain't got to deal with the whole, fist of vengeance coming back on that ass. Yeah. Because he knows that, if Khonshu somehow gets free, he can reanimate him or do something. So it's probably, I don't know.
This is true.
Yeah.
Just closing this out, just about Taweret, she says the Duat is impossible to comprehend by the human mind, so the realm is perceived by that person as something more easily recognizable. In this case for Mark, it's Putnam Psychiatric Hospital. Whether or not it's a trick or not, who knows? Here we are. She does end up trying to help Steven and Mark by saying she's sailing to Osiris Gate. I guess that gate gives you back to the world of the living. You need to be up there. But like they make it, but then the scales balance and then he ends up in the field of reeds. And I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah. And I love that line about how it's impossible to comprehend. That definitely comes from the Bible as well when they refer to angels, which might be aliens.
Yeah,
which might be aliens. And also they Stan Lee used that for Galactus as, the Galactus that we see in the comics always has a humanoid face, but they say that he appears that way because we're humans. So he appears as a scroll to scrolls, and he appears as whatever to whoever he appears to.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, of course, you have all these metaphors, like they're traveling through the underworld on this boat. The boat has the memories of Steven inside, like as you travel across souls. And again, just more towards like you saying Marcus being trash. Is like his first thought, like when they're like, yo, we're not getting overboard. Mark's like, hell nah, we could kill her. We can sail the boat ourselves. I'm like, bro, you don't even like, you just for a minute ago, you didn't even accept you were dead or in an underworld, but now you talking about, oh, we're gonna kill a god
with some rope.
My nigga. You on some other shit.
You
He's
down
on
bad,
some other
Mark.
shit.
You down real bad, dog. Like I said, this man is like,
yes.
He only got one episode left. He gonna be just like Tony Stark, boy. He gonna way right to the end before he's like, yo, maybe I should think of some other plans, Maybe murder.
I should come different next time.
Maybe murder isn't the way,
Yeah. Kind of a offhand, like Tauret calls Harrow evil, which then makes me think that, okay, you might be right about that other stuff. Because when she talks about the purple rain coming down and, these people coming before their time, she's like, oh, that's just evil. Mm-hmm. Who's doing it? Him and Almut. So,
yeah.
Evil mans. And finally, we have our Easter eggs inspiration music. I know you may have a couple things. I just want to point out 2 songs. When at the very end, when Mark gets into the fields of reeds, you hear the song Mas Allá del Sol by Manuel Bonilla. It's a song kind of about like a loving someone beyond their mistakes, because that person is their greatest love. Mm-hmm. It could be also like taken in a religious context. If you just kind of look up the or translate the lyrics to English there. Then,
and it has some lyrics about being beyond the sun in it, and we see him standing beyond the sun.
Beyond the sun, like you're basically beyond the realms. You're beyond time. You're beyond this world. And then in the end credits after that scene, you hear, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Saat.
I think that's right.
Remix version by Reyes Beck. And I believe it translates. It could translate to a lot of things depending on what language it is, but it could also mean sometime. Could mean the number 7. Could be a lot of things. But I first of all, the music has been fire, and I really liked that last song.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Yeah. Any other Easter eggs or things you want to mention?
No, I think that's about it for this episode. I didn't really have any other notes down here that I had to mention. Yeah, I mentioned that, why hadn't Soul passed through. I liked how they pulled out the white heart with no blood.
Yeah.
And she was also expecting the chest to bust open because she hadn't done it in so long. Yeah. So she wasn't sure if it was going to work again.
And what's the heart supposed to be made out of, like pearl or opal or something? It was just like a ivory kind of, like, it was just beautiful. Like a not a statue, but a sculpture.
Yes. Yep. Definitely wasn't pumping like it was Indiana Jones. That would have been disturbing. Yeah.
But what was not disturbing was our review of episode 5 of Views from the 616. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you enjoy yourself. I hope you learned something today. Learn from this, as Tyra Banks would say. Please make sure you are subscribed on your favorite podcast platform. Please subscribe to For All Nerds in order to listen to Views from the 616, where we talk about all things MCU. You can follow myself. I'm at Tatiana King on your favorite podcast platform. This gentleman over here, he's at DJ BenHaMeen. You can also follow us, Views from 616 on Twitter, as well as For All Nerds on every podcast platform, including TikTok. Make sure you are subscribed and following us on Twitch, twitch.tv/forallnerds. That's how you get to see our lovely melanated faces, and you get to see these cool t-shirts that we're always wearing. You get to see some cool merch we have in our hand. BenHaMeen has a beautiful, gorgeous mug. Show that mug, Mr. BenHaMeen, please. And if you want any of these, as I said, amazing merch that we have on, I have on the Would You Like to Fuck Around and Find Out Miss Minutes shirt from Loki, as well as a plethora of other cool designs. Go to tpublic.com/stores/forallnerds. When you buy our merch, or if you join our Patreon, patreon.com/forallnerds, that's how you directly support this show and everything that goes along with it, which means this is how we pay our staff. This is how we get to do cool things like this review episode, and how we just do it with style and class and grace. So thank you to the fam. We appreciate and love you so much. Anything else I missed?
We will be on Twitch at some point with this episode. Not sure when, because at our normal viewing time of Monday at 8 p.m., me and Tatiana will be checking out a little independent movie. I don't know. I've heard something about a multiverse of madness or something. So you might want to be following us on all them platforms, because midnight, I want to say, May 2nd, you might see some news or a no spoiler review of, the movie, doing something strange for some change.